Welcome back to part 2. If you missed part 1, let me catch you up real quick. My ex-husband Marcus invited me to his wedding anniversary celebration to humiliate me. He thought I'd show up broken and poor. Instead, I arrived in a Rolls-Royce as a self-made venture capitalist worth more than him. And when he saw me, his face went white. But here's the thing, that entrance. That was just the beginning. What happened next at that wedding absolutely destroyed Marcus's entire life. His marriage. His reputation. His business. Everything. And I didn't even have to lift a finger. So if you're ready to see karma work in real time, if you're ready to see a man's whole world collapse because of his own arrogance, if you're ready for the most satisfying revenge you've ever heard, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. But first, if you haven't already, smash that like button and subscribe to this channel because stories like this, they don't come around every day. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss how this ends. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a revenge story this good. Now, let's watch Marcus's entire world fall apart. So there I was, standing in the garden with some of the most powerful venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, and Marcus was walking straight toward me. I could see Victoria grabbing his arm, trying to stop him. She was saying something, I couldn't hear what, but I could see the panic on her face. She knew something was wrong. She could feel it. But Marcus shook her off and kept coming. The investors I was talking to noticed the shift in energy immediately. Robert Morrison raised an eyebrow. Do you know the groom? Oh yes, I said calmly, taking another sip of my champagne. We have history. Rebecca Lou's eyes widened slightly. What kind of history? The kind where I worked 3 jobs for 3 years to fund his startup, and then he left me the moment he got successful because I wasn't sophisticated enough for his new life. The silence that followed was beautiful. Michael Torres's mouth actually fell open. You're Marcus Harper's ex-wife. The ex-wife? That would be me. Holy shit, Robert muttered. Marcus reached our group and up close, I could see everything. The fine lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. The slight puffiness in his face from too much good living and probably too much stress. The thinning spot at his crown that his expensive haircut tried and failed to hide. He looked older. Tired. And absolutely terrified. Sarah, he said, his voice tight. What are you doing here? I smiled pleasantly. You invited me, Marcus. Don't you remember? You sent me that lovely handwritten note about closure and maturity and celebrating each other's happiness. His face flushed. Yes, but I didn't think you'd actually come. Why not? I asked innocently. It sounded like such a wonderful opportunity. You wanted me to see how well things worked out for you, right? So here I am. Observing. Robert was watching this exchange with the fascination of someone watching a car crash in slow motion. Marcus, you invited your ex-wife to your anniversary party. I was trying to be mature about it, Marcus said defensively. To show there were no hard feelings. Is that what you were trying to show? I asked softly. Or were you trying to parade your success in front of the woman you thought would show up looking pathetic? Marcus's eyes darted around the group, looking for support he wasn't going to find. That's not. Sarah, you're twisting things. Am I? Should I read them the note you sent me? I brought it with me. His face went pale. That's not necessary. Oh, I think it might be very necessary. Especially the part where you said our divorce was for the best, because you needed someone who could fit into your new life. Someone more, what was the word you used in person? Oh yes. Sophisticated. Rebecca's expression had gone from curious to disgusted. You told her she wasn't sophisticated enough. It was more complicated than that, Marcus stammered. Was it? I asked. Was it complicated when you were eating the food I bought with money from my 3 jobs? Was it complicated when I was paying for your laptop and your software subscriptions and your domain registration? Was it complicated when you told me you couldn't have done it without me, right before you filed for divorce? Michael Torres let out a low whistle. Man, that's cold. That's when Victoria arrived, slightly out of breath, her perfect makeup starting to crack around the edges. Marcus, what's going on? Who is this? Before Marcus could answer, I extended my hand. Sarah Chen. Phoenix Capital Partners. You must be Victoria. Congratulations on your anniversary. She took my hand automatically, confusion written all over her face. Thank you, wait. Sarah? As in Marcus's ex-wife Sarah. The very same. Victoria's eyes widened and she looked between Marcus and me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. But Marcus said you were, he said. He said what? I asked gently. He said you two had just grown apart. That the divorce was mutual and amicable. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Is that what he told you? Did he also tell you that we were still very much married when you two started dating? Victoria's face went white. What? No. No, Marcus said you were separated. He said. We were living together, I said clearly. Sleeping in the same bed. I was still working my 3 jobs to pay our bills. We were not separated in any sense of the word. Marcus. Victoria's voice was shaking. Is that true? Marcus looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Victoria, honey, it's not what it sounds like. Then what is it? She demanded. Did you lie to me about being separated? We were emotionally separated, he said desperately. The marriage was already over, we just hadn't made it official yet. That's not what separated means. Victoria was starting to cry now, her mascara beginning to run. You told me you were already divorced. You told me I wasn't a homewrecker. You're not. Victoria, please. And that's when Harrison Blackwell arrived. Sarah Chen. I turned and there he was. Harrison Blackwell, Victoria's father, one of the most powerful venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, the man whose money and connections Marcus had married into. He was tall, distinguished, probably in his early 60s, with silver hair and the kind of commanding presence that comes from decades of making billion-dollar decisions. Mr. Blackwell, I said warmly, extending my hand. What a pleasure to finally meet you in person. His face lit up like I'd just given him $1 million. The pleasure is entirely mine. Sarah, I've been trying to get a meeting with you for months. Your fund's performance is absolutely extraordinary. I could see Marcus standing there, frozen, watching his father-in-law completely ignore him to talk to his ex-wife. You're very kind, I said. I've been following Blackwell Ventures for years. Your investment in sustainable technology companies has been particularly impressive. Thank you. And your thesis of investing in overlooked founders, women, immigrants, people without traditional pedigrees, it's not just socially conscious, it's brilliant business. You're identifying opportunities the rest of us are completely missing. Robert Morrison interjected, Harrison, did you know that Sarah and Marcus were married? Harrison looked surprised. Really? No, I had no idea. Small world. He turned to Marcus with a smile. You must be very proud of what Sarah's accomplished. The silence was deafening. Marcus opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again like a fish gasping for air. Yes. Very proud. How did you two meet? Harrison asked cheerfully, completely oblivious to the tension. This was it. This was my moment. I could take the high road. I could be gracious. I could protect Marcus's reputation and just say we met in college and leave it at that. But you know what? I'd taken the high road for years. I'd been the supportive wife, the understanding partner, the gracious divorcee. I'd been silent about my story while Marcus got to rewrite history and play the successful entrepreneur. Not anymore. We met in college, I said clearly. We got married young because we were in love. And for 3 years after graduation, I worked 3 jobs, a receptionist, a waitress, and a freelance bookkeeper, to financially support Marcus while he built TechFlow solutions. Harrison's smile faltered slightly. 3 jobs. Yes. I worked 70-hour weeks to fund our living expenses, his equipment, his software, everything. I contributed approximately $180,000 in direct financial support over those 3 years, plus the opportunity cost of not advancing my own career. The group had gone completely silent. More people were starting to gather, drawn by the tension. Then, I continued, once TechFlow got its series of funding, $2 million, Marcus decided I wasn't sophisticated enough for his new lifestyle. He told me I didn't fit into his world anymore. And he left me for Victoria. Victoria gasped. He what? Harrison's expression had shifted from friendly to something much harder. Is this true, Marcus? It's more complicated than that, Marcus said, but his voice was weak. Is it? I asked. Which part? The part where I worked myself to exhaustion to fund your dream. The part where you told me I was too unsophisticated for your new world. The part where you were cheating on me with Victoria while we were still married. Or the part where you divorced me and gave me just $800,000, less than 4% of the company's value at the time, despite the fact that I'd funded the entire operation for 3 years. Wait, Victoria said, tears streaming down her face now. You told me you were already separated when we met. You said your marriage had been over for months. We were having problems, Marcus tried to explain. We were sleeping in the same bed. I said. We were living together. I was still paying our bills. Marcus, we were not separated by any definition of the word, and you know it. Harrison stepped closer to Marcus, and his voice dropped to something low and dangerous. You used my daughter. You saw an opportunity to advance your business through her family connections, and you used her. No. Harrison, I swear, I love Victoria. Do you? Harrison asked coldly. Or do you love the doors her last name opens? The investors I introduce you to. The credibility my family's reputation gives your company. I love her. I love her. Harrison turned to me. Sarah, you said he gave you $800,000 in the divorce. Yes, sir. And the company was worth $20 million at the time. Yes, sir. So you received 4% of the value you helped create, despite funding the operation for 3 years during its most critical phase. That's correct. My lawyer wanted to fight for more, but I was exhausted. I just wanted it to be over. Harrison's jaw tightened. That's unconscionable. That's when Robert Morrison spoke up. Sarah, didn't you say you invested that $800,000 in your education and eventually started Phoenix Capital? I did. I got my MBA from Stanford, worked in venture capital for a few years, and then started my own fund. And your returns? Our first fund returned 400%. We're currently managing $250 million across 3 funds. Michael Torres laughed, actually laughed. So Marcus gave you $800,000 thinking he was getting rid of you, and you turned it into a $250 million venture capital operation. Success is the best revenge, I said with a smile. Rebecca Lou was grinning now. That's the most badass thing I've ever heard. Harrison turned back to Marcus, and I could see the disgust written all over his face. You're a small man, Marcus. A very small, petty, cruel man who uses people to get what he wants. First Sarah to build your company. Then my daughter to expand your network and access my connections. More guests had gathered now. The beautiful anniversary celebration had turned into a spectacle, and people were pulling out their phones. This was going to be all over Silicon Valley by tomorrow morning. Harrison Blackwell pulled an elegant cream envelope from his inside jacket pocket. Sarah, before I leave, I wanted to ask you something. You mentioned you're invested in Greenfield Analytics. Yes, about 18 months ago. Excellent team. Revolutionary approach to supply chain optimization. They're about to start their Series B round. I'm on the board. We'd love to have Phoenix Capital as a lead investor. Would you be interested? I could see Marcus standing there, watching this conversation, watching his father-in-law offer me a business opportunity at his own daughter's wedding while his marriage was falling apart. I'd be very interested, I said. Let's set up a meeting next week. Perfect. Here's my direct line. Harrison handed me his business card. Call my assistant tomorrow. We'll get something on the calendar. Thank you, Mr. Blackwell. He smiled, genuinely smiled, and said, please call me Harrison. And Sarah. I'm sorry for what you went through. But I'm glad you found a way to turn it into something remarkable. Then he turned to Victoria. Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home. Victoria hesitated, looking at Marcus one more time. Did you ever really love me? Or was I just convenient? Of course I love you. Marcus said desperately. Victoria, you're my wife. This is our anniversary. Don't let them ruin. They didn't ruin anything, Victoria said, her voice shaking. You did. You lied to me. You used me. You probably used her too. She gestured to me. And now you're standing here trying to manipulate me into staying, just so you don't lose Daddy's money. That's not true. Isn't it? Be honest, Marcus. Would you have married me if my father wasn't Harrison Blackwell? The pause before his answer told everyone everything they needed to know. Victoria, I love you for you. But would you have married me, she pressed. If I was just Victoria Smith, daughter of nobody, with no connections and no money, would you have even looked at me twice? Another pause. You're putting words in my mouth, Marcus said weakly. Victoria laughed, a broken, bitter sound. That's what I thought. She walked over to her father, and they left together. Just like that. Marcus stood there in his expensive tuxedo, at his own anniversary party, watching his wife walk out on him. And the crazy thing? I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. The garden had erupted into chaos. Guests were whispering frantically, phones were out recording everything, and Marcus was standing there alone, looking like his entire world had just collapsed. Because it had. Robert Morrison turned to me. Sarah, I know this is terrible timing, but I have to ask, would you be open to discussing co-investment opportunities? We're looking at a few companies in the healthcare AI space that might align with your thesis. I couldn't help but smile. I'd be happy to. Send me your deck. Fantastic. I'll have my team reach out tomorrow. Michael Torres jumped in. Sarah, we're hosting a limited partner dinner next month. Would you be interested in attending? I'd love to introduce you to some of our other portfolio founders. That sounds wonderful. Thank you for the invitation. Rebecca Lou was grinning. This is the most epic thing I've ever witnessed at a wedding. Sarah, you're my new hero. Let's grab coffee soon and talk about that healthcare company you mentioned. I was standing at Marcus's wedding, and his colleagues, his industry peers, the people he'd been trying to impress for years, they were all networking with me. They were treating me like the person worth knowing. And Marcus? Marcus was alone, watching it all happen, realizing that he'd just lost everything. His wife had left him. His biggest investor had pulled out. His reputation was in tatters. And the woman he'd thrown away like garbage was being courted by everyone in the room. Finally, he walked up to me. The investors had dispersed to give us space, but they were watching from a distance. Are you happy now? Marcus asked quietly. You've destroyed everything. I looked at him, really looked at him, and I felt absolutely nothing. No anger. No satisfaction. No vindication. Nothing. I didn't destroy anything, Marcus. I just showed up. You destroyed this when you chose to use people instead of value them. When you threw away someone who loved you for someone who could advance your career. When you let success make you cruel. I loved you, he said, and for the first time, there was something genuine in his voice. When we were starting out, I really did love you. Maybe you did. But you loved your ambition more. And that's fine, people are allowed to choose their ambitions over relationships. But you didn't have to be cruel about it. You didn't have to make me feel worthless. You didn't have to invite me here to humiliate me. I wanted you to see that leaving you was the right choice. That I'd made something of myself. I shook my head slowly. Marcus, I built a better life than you could have ever given me. I'm more successful than you. I'm happier than you. And I'm engaged to a man who actually values me for who I am, not what I can do for him. I pulled out the handwritten note he'd sent with the invitation. I really had brought it with me, and held it up. You wanted me to see how well things worked out for you, I said. You wanted closure. You wanted to prove that leaving me was the best decision you ever made. Well, congratulations, Marcus. You got your closure. But not the way you expected. I set the note on a nearby table. For the record, leaving me was the best decision you ever made. Because it freed me to become someone you could never have helped me be. It freed me to build something real, something I'm proud of, something that's actually mine. I reached into my clutch and pulled out my business card. Here. Phoenix Capital Partners. When Blackwell pulls his investment and you're scrambling for funding, don't call me. I don't invest in people I can't trust. And Marcus, I will never trust you again. I set the card next to the note and turned to walk away. Sarah, wait. I paused but didn't turn around. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For all of it. The way I treated you. The way I ended things. The note. Inviting you here. Everything. I'm truly, genuinely sorry. I turned back one last time. I believe you, I said. But being sorry doesn't undo the damage. It just means you finally understand what you lost. And then I walked away. As I made my way through the garden toward the exit, something remarkable happened. People stopped me. Not to gawk. Not to gossip. To talk business. A founder I'd never met approached me, Sarah Chen. I've been following Phoenix Capital for months. I'm launching a femtech startup. Would you be open to hearing my pitch? I smiled. Absolutely. Here's my card. Email my team. A woman in her 40s, elegant and poised, I'm Caroline Reeves. I run a boutique investment fund focused on women-led companies. I've heard incredible things about your work. We should connect. I'd love that. An older gentleman in a perfectly tailored suit, Ms. Chen, I'm Jonathan Pierce. I was just talking to Harrison Blackwell about you. I'm looking for a VC partner for a medical device company I'm advising. Might you have time next week? For you, Jonathan, absolutely. It was surreal. I'd come to this wedding expecting a confrontation. Maybe some satisfaction at seeing Marcus's reaction. But this was something else entirely. I was walking out of this disaster with new business connections, new opportunities, and a reputation that had just skyrocketed because everyone had witnessed, in real time, exactly who Marcus Harper really was, and exactly who I'd become. Thomas, my driver, was waiting with the Rolls-Royce at the entrance. When he saw my face, he opened the door immediately. Rough evening, Ms. Chen. I smiled, a real, genuine smile. Actually, Thomas, it was perfect. As we pulled away from Rosewood Estate, I looked back one last time through the rear window. I could see Marcus standing alone in the garden, surrounded by whispering guests, his perfect celebration in ruins around him. And I felt free. For years I'd carried the weight of that relationship. The sacrifice. The betrayal. The feeling that maybe, just maybe, I hadn't been good enough. But I was wrong. I was always good enough. More than good enough. Marcus hadn't left me because I was lacking. He'd left me because he was lacking, in character, in loyalty, in the ability to value what truly mattered. And now? Now he was going to spend the rest of his life knowing that the woman he threw away became more successful, more respected, and infinitely happier than he would ever be. I pulled out my phone and called David. He answered on the first ring. Sarah. How did it go? It was, I paused, trying to find the right words. It was spectacular. Tell me everything. So I did. I told him about the entrance, about the investors gathering around me, about Marcus's face when he realized who I'd become. About Harrison Blackwell pulling his investment. About Victoria walking out. About the whole beautiful, chaotic, absolutely perfect disaster. David was silent for a moment when I finished. Then he started laughing. Not a mean laugh, a pure, joyful, that's the most incredible thing I've ever heard laugh. I love you, he said when he caught his breath. I love you so much. And I'm so proud of you. I love you too. I'll be home in about 30 minutes. Can we order Thai food and watch something mindless on Netflix? Already ordered the pad Thai. Extra spring rolls. It'll be here by the time you get home. And that's when I knew. That's when I really knew that I'd won. Not because I'd humiliated Marcus. Not because I'd disrupted his celebration. Not because I'd proven my success. I'd won because I'd built a life I actually wanted to live. A life with work that fulfilled me. A partner who loved me for exactly who I was. Financial security I'd earned on my own. And peace that came from finally knowing my worth. Marcus's upgrade had cost him everything. His wife had left him. His investor had pulled out. His reputation in Silicon Valley was going to be destroyed by morning. Meanwhile, my actual upgrade, the one that mattered, was waiting for me at home with Thai food, and a bad Netflix movie, and unconditional love. The next morning, I woke up in David's arms with sunlight streaming through the windows. My phone was absolutely exploding with notifications. Text messages. Emails. LinkedIn requests. Voicemails. I turned on my phone and started scrolling. The first thing I saw was a text from Robert Morrison. Sarah, what happened last night is all over tech Twitter. You're trending. Call me when you're up. We need to talk about some opportunities. Then Rebecca Liu, you're officially a Silicon Valley legend. Breakfast this week. I want to hear the whole story from your perspective. Then Michael Torres, my partners want to meet you ASAP. You available for lunch Monday? I opened Twitter, X, and searched my name. There it was. Trending. Hashtag Sarachan. Hashtag Phoenix Capital. Hashtag Silicon Valley Wedding. People had recorded everything. The confrontation. Harrison Blackwell walking away. Victoria leaving. Marcus standing there alone. But here's what was interesting, the narrative wasn't about drama or gossip. It was about me. About a woman who'd been used and discarded, who'd rebuilt herself, who'd become more successful than the men who'd thrown her away. One tweet had 50,000 likes. Sarachan worked 3 jobs to fund her husband's startup. He left her when he got rich. She got her MBA, started a VC fund, and showed up to his wedding worth more than him. This is how you do revenge. Crown. Another, Men really think they can use women as stepping stones and face no consequences. Sarah Chen just proved them wrong. Icon behavior. A female founder I admired had tweeted, "Every woman who's ever been told she's not enough after sacrificing for a man needs to hear Sarah Chen's story. You are enough. You always were." TechCrunch had already published an article, Phoenix Capital's Sarah Chen steals the show at exclusive Silicon Valley event. Forbes was requesting an interview. Business Insider wanted to do a profile. Several podcasts wanted me as a guest. My article dropped in Harvard Business Review 3 weeks after the wedding. The title, From Supporting Role to Leading Investor: How I Turned Heartbreak into a Top-Performing VC Fund. It went viral. Within 48 hours, it had been shared over 100,000 times. The comments section was flooded with women sharing their own stories of sacrifice and rebuilding. I put my husband through medical school while working as a nurse. He left me for a pharmaceutical rep the year he became an attending physician. This story gave me hope that I can rebuild too. I supported my partner while he got his MBA. He dumped me 2 months after graduation for someone more ambitious. Reading this reminded me that I am ambitious. I was just investing in the wrong person. Currently working 2 jobs to support my boyfriend's music career. This article was a wake-up call. Thank you, Sarah. The responses were overwhelming. Thousands of women reaching out, sharing their stories, asking for advice. So I started a mentorship program. Through Phoenix Capital Partners, I launched an initiative specifically for women who wanted to break into venture capital but didn't have traditional backgrounds or connections. Women like me, who'd taken unconventional paths, who'd sacrificed and struggled and rebuilt. I created a scholarship fund for non-traditional MBA students, people who'd worked their way up, who'd made sacrifices, who'd been told they weren't enough but refused to believe it. And I kept investing in founders who reminded me of myself. Scrappy. Determined. Overlooked. Underestimated. The founders everyone else passed on. The ones building something real, not just chasing hype. As for Marcus, I heard through the grapevine that Victoria eventually did go back to him. They're still married as far as I know. Harrison Blackwell did pull his investment, but Marcus found other funding. TechFlow Solutions still exists, still does decent business. But his reputation never fully recovered. In Silicon Valley, people remember. They remember who has character and who doesn't. Who values people and who uses them. Who builds something real and who just builds an image. Marcus became a cautionary tale. The guy who used his wife to build his company, then threw her away. The guy who married for connections. The guy who got exactly what he deserved when karma came calling. I occasionally see him at industry events. We nod politely from across the room. We don't speak. And that's fine, because I have nothing left to say to him. 6 months after the disaster at Rosewood Estate, David and I got married. We kept it small and intimate. Just close friends and family, on a beach in Maui. Sunset ceremony, bare feet in the sand, waves crashing in the background. I wore a simple white dress, elegant but not extravagant. Nothing like the elaborate designer gowns at Marcus and Victoria's celebration. This wasn't about making a statement. This was about marrying the man I loved. We wrote our own vows. David went first and his words made me cry. Sarah, you are the strongest person I've ever met. Not because of what you've accomplished professionally, though that's incredible. But because of how you've remained kind and hopeful and generous despite everything you've been through. You could have let betrayal make you bitter. Instead, you let it make you better. I promise to always see you, really see you, for exactly who you are. To value your dreams as much as my own. To stand beside you, never behind you, never in front of you, but beside you as an equal partner. Your success is my success. Your happiness is my happiness. You are not my stepping stone, or my accessory, or my supporter. You are my partner, my equal, my love. And I will spend every day of my life making sure you know it. Then it was my turn. David, you taught me something I didn't think was possible. You taught me that love doesn't have to come with sacrifice and struggle and constantly proving your worth. You taught me that partnership means actually sharing everything, the work, the success, the dreams, the life. You make me better without making me feel lesser. You celebrate my wins without feeling threatened. You support my ambitions while maintaining your own. You are the partner I didn't know I was allowed to ask for. And I love you for that. I love you for seeing me. For valuing me. For choosing me every single day, not because of what I can do for you, but because of who I am with you. I promise to do the same for you, every day, for the rest of our lives. There wasn't a dry eye on that beach. We honeymooned in Japan. 2 weeks of turning off our phones, eating incredible food, visiting temples, soaking in hot springs, and just being together. No business calls. No investor meetings. No emails. Just us. One night, sitting in a traditional ryokan in Kyoto, David asked me, "Do you ever think about that night at the wedding? About Marcus?" I thought about it for a moment. Honestly. Not really. That whole chapter feels like it happened to a different person. Like I was watching a movie of someone else's life. Any regrets about going? None. I needed that closure. I needed to see him one last time, not to prove anything to him, but to prove something to myself. To prove that I'd moved on. That I'd built something better. That I was finally, completely, totally free of him. And are you? Free of him? Completely. He's just a footnote now. A chapter one had to go.